Let's start with the 2023 Toyota Highlander. In terms of overall reliability, road performance, and owner satisfaction, the Highlander gets an average score of 80 out of 100. It comes in 3 available trims. The XLE is the gas-powered version with a 2.4-liter turbo inline-4, which gives you 265 horsepower and 310 pound-feet of torque. There are 2 hybrid versions, the Hybrid LE and the Hybrid XLE. Here's the thing about the Highlander. You have to keep in mind that this crossover's been around since the 2001 model year. That's 22 solid years of history. In other words, a solid track record. It's rated to be more reliable than the average passenger car. To me, that alone gives this crossover a high rank in my book, scoring a solid 5 out of 5 in predicted reliability when it comes to braking, transmission, front access, rear access, and usability. I'd say the only area where the Highlander doesn't rate well, it's the third row. I'm talking about access to the third row and overall seating comfort in the third row. But to be fair, most if not all of mid-size crossovers with 3 rows don't fare well in this category. The third rows and all crossovers are sham rows. They're mostly useless unless you have tiny children. To me, having a comfortable and accessible third row is only possible in a full-size SUV or minivan. Any vehicle smaller than that will compromise comfort and ease of access to the third row. Now, you know me as a mechanic, I'm a Toyota fan in general. To me, it comes as no surprise that owners of the Highlander gave it a high score of 4 out of 5 when it comes to owner satisfaction. I'm talking about driving experience, comfort, and styling. But now that said, when it comes to car value, owners rated the Highlander 44 out of 100. I'm talking about whether owners get what they wanted relative to the price they paid. I'm sure a part of that has to do with car prices in general being higher than the pre-pandemic days. But let's switch gears and talk about the Honda Pilot. Its overall score is 79, inching just 1 point behind the Toyota Highlander. The Honda Pilot comes with a 3.5-liter V6 engine that pumps out 285 horsepower and 264 pound-feet of torque. It comes in 6 available trims: LX, Sport, EXL, Touring, and Elite. Now, the Pilot has an established history more like the Highlander. Its first model year was 2003, so this new 2023 is its 20th year. The new Honda Pilot has high ratings across categories like rear seat comfort. I'm talking about the second row here, not the third row. Climate system, front and rear access. But then there's the bad. It scored low across categories like rear occupant protection, greenhouse gas emissions, usability, and third row seating comfort. That's where the ugly comes in. It received the poor 4 out of 10 for smog rating. In terms of predicted reliability, it rates 3 out of 5. That's not too surprising, as Honda's reputation has gone down some in recent years. As far as the Pilot is concerned, the model years 2010, 2016, and 2017 are probably among the worst year the Pilot has seen, a couple of those being new redesigns. Right now, there's no data on owner satisfaction for the Pilot because the crossover is still new and hasn't been out in the market long enough. But the predicted owner satisfaction is anticipated to be 4 out of 5. Another crossover on my list is the Mazda CX-90. Now, this is the very first model of the CX-90, which replaces the CX-9. So it doesn't have an overall score yet because it's so brand new. But assuming if the reviews ultimately prove true, then this crossover deserves a special mention on the list in today's video. Mazda itself describes the CX-90 as the first ever Mazda vehicle that's best of both worlds in terms of power and fuel efficiency. For now, the Mazda crossover is available in gas-powered and plug-in hybrid versions. We're talking 3 powertrain options and 11 configurations. To be fair, if we're going to compare the crossover with other crossovers under 40 grand, we have to use the base model as reference. And the base trim for the CX-90 is the 3.3 Turbo Select. It seats 8 passengers. I'm talking about a 3.3-liter eSkyActiv G turbocharged inline-6 that pairs with standard all-wheel drive and 8-speed automatic transmission. It churns out 260 horses and 332 pound-feet of torque. Believe it or not, there's already been a recall for the 2024 CX-90 back in June. Basically, certain bolts for the steering intermediate shaft, front ABS wheel speed sensor harnesses, or front upper control arms may not have been tightened to proper specifications, or may even be missing. This can result in one or more of these components loosening up or detaching while driving and causing a loss of ability to control the vehicle, increasing the risk of a crash. Let's look at another crossover. That's the Honda CR-V. We're talking completely new look on the outside and inside. Inside, you'll find adaptive cruise, blind spot monitoring on all models, an infotainment system with available 7 to 9-inch touchscreens with wireless Android Auto, and lane keeping assist. Under the hood, you'll find a retuned standard 190 horsepower Turbo 4 engine. You'll also have the option of a 204 horsepower hybrid powertrain. And on the outside, we're talking about a refreshed sporty look. The front of the car have an active shutter lower front honeycomb grille on it. This grille is engineered to close and open when the underhood system needs more cooling air. This will also enhance it's aerodynamic. Jeep Wagoneer. Not many people know this, but the last few decades, various versions of the Wagoneer have been made in the U.S. since 1963. That's 60 years ago. It's a full-size SUV, coming with an 8-speed automatic transmission, a 3-liter twin-turbo inline-6 engine that pumps out up to 420 horsepower and up to 468 pound-feet of torque. Compare that to the Chevy Tahoe. The Wagoneer usually comes out top overall, and especially when it comes to third-row seating. Third-row seats also come with AC vents, USB and USB-C ports, and cup holders. If you're wondering, why on earth is this SUV in this video? Well, here's the thing. When you think of a full-size SUV, you think of things like off-roading, powerful towing, and other utilitarian features. And it's true, many full-size SUVs live up to these descriptions. But there are some key downsides that many people don't talk about. Take pricing, for example. Don't even get me started about how overpriced this full-size SUV is. You see a base price of $72,845, not including any add-ons. With starting prices like that, I'm expecting vehicles' stats and specs to match. But the Jeep Wagoneer just doesn't live up to its price tag. Being overpriced isn't the only problem with the Wagoneer. There have been many reports of owners experiencing issues with this model. One owner even reported issues with their Wagoneer after just 64 miles. With this specific owner, the issue had to do with an error message on the display saying to check both second-row seat latches before driving. The seats of the Wagoneer come with mechanical and electrical latches. The problem is the electrical latches can malfunction, as it did in this particular owner. When that happens, the seat latch error message will pop up anytime the vehicle stops. The only way to fix this is to get the latches undone, which means a trip to the dealer. Another issue has to do with the quality of the materials of the interior. Several owners have complained that the leather along the top of the third-row seats is pulling away from the backing seams. Believe it or not, this is actually a more commonly reported problem with the Wagoneer than you might think. I don't know about you, but I'm paying $80,000 for my full-size SUV. I prefer the seats to stay in one piece. Other reported issues include things like the steering column, power assist adjustment, and pedal adjustment that stop working. This is a relatively recent issue that Jeep is only recently becoming aware of. So if you own a Wagoneer and this happens to you, contact Jeep. Out of all these issues, the next one might be the worst of them all. Fuel economy. In one test, the Wagoneer received a ranking of 1 out of 5 for fuel economy ratings. I'm talking 14 in the city and 20 on the highway with the inline 6. If you get the V8, it goes down to 13 in the city and 18 on the highway. The Wagoneer also scored low, 3 out of 10 in fact, for greenhouse gas emissions. Next up is Chevy Tahoe. This is a vehicle that's been around since 1994, so we're talking almost 30 years here. Back in 2021, the Chevy Tahoe sold over 106,000 units, making it one of the most popular SUVs here in the United States, and it often outsells its competition by 2 to 1. It comes standard with a 5.3-liter V8 mated to a 10-speed automatic transmission. You do have an option for the 3-liter Duramax turbo diesel engine, and with the higher trims, you can opt out for the 6.2-liter EcoTech 3 V8 engine that outputs up to 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. Admittedly, the Tahoe offers a light and smooth ride. But the thing is, to get that premium driving feeling, the Tahoe needs premium fuel. Without it, the ride doesn't feel the same. And don't be too surprised to hear that the Tahoe gets 15 miles a gallon in the city and 20 on the highway. It's going to guzzle a lot of expensive premium gas. Now, the standard version can seat up to 8 passengers, but the Tahoe can be equipped with a front row bench to seat 9. The Chevy Tahoe outbeats the Toyota Sequoia in terms of cabin space. It can also tow more, between 8,100 and 8,400 pounds, depending on the engine option. Honestly, it's not as high as some of its competitors, but with extra features, the SUV can easily go to the $70,000 to $80,000 price range. If you're serious about off-roading, I'll tell you right off the bat, it's not as good off-roading as some of its competitors. I guarantee you can find cheaper vehicles that will give you a better off-roading experience and better torque. Also, when you're behind the wheel of an SUV that's higher up in the price range like the Tahoe, it's going to require higher priced fuel to match. Fill it up with premium fuel and you'll get more power and better drive, but that comes at a higher cost. That's not even the worst part. Now, the Toyota Sequoia offers less cabin and cargo spaces than a Chevy Tahoe. You can blame the Sequoia's hybrid battery pack, which sits below the second row seat. Because of the packaging, the second row doesn't slide. In fact, another reason why the Sequoia isn't worth the price is how the second row seats hold. Generally, to get a third row, you pull a little lever which opens a space for you to slide into the third row. Problem starts once you throw something like a car seat in the mix, which is something you commonly see in a family-sized vehicle like this. With the car seat in the way, to get to the third row seating, you have to either go in from the other side or crawl over it, then walk through the center pass-through area. Now, I know this isn't the end of the world, but for a vehicle that reaches up to the $80,000 range, you'd expect much less of a hassle. Anyway, if you're entertaining the thought of getting any of these full-size SUVs, well, it's pretty simple and it all boils down to this. Don't. It's just not worth it. Sure, they might look hip and trendy, but they depreciate quickly. Plus, if you're not a regular off-roader and your real need is a cabin and cargo space, then you don't want to lie to yourself. The truth is, it's better to get a minivan. You're not going to take either of them off-road anyway. Now, not everyone realizes this, but minivans are generally a much better deal than full-size SUVs. They offer ample cabin and cargo space, and they're way cheaper and more reliable. Minivans have low floors and deep cargo wells behind the third row. That means even a full load of passengers, you can still fit groceries, strollers, suitcases, and other gear inside. An added bonus is that minivans typically save you money on car insurance. There are a few reasons why. First of all, minivans typically aren't in that many accidents. Chances are your average minivan driver is usually a bit more cautious on the road compared to other drivers. That usually comes down to the fact there's children in the back. It's also because the average minivan driver is older and more experienced compared to other drivers on the road. Also, vehicle theft and vandalism are uncommon with minivans. Minivans usually aren't the first vehicle choice for the average car thief, and that translates into low insurance claims risks. Minivans also have high safety ratings, which translates to lower car insurance premiums. And finally, minivans are a common mainstream vehicle, so if you later need repair work, then parts and supplies are typically easier to procure and cheaper. So you can expect parts replacement costs to be lower compared to full-size SUVs. But now you tell me, what do you think about the Jeep Wagoneer, Chevy Tahoe, or Toyota Sequoia? Have you driven any of these? Please share by commenting below. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for your support.